Community through business, building relationships, and building Waterloo Region. 570 News proudly presents Business to Business. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream, powered by the producing talents of Paul Harriet. He is the producer of The Late Lunch with Pete Travers, and in his capacity has become quite a co-host. And if you listen to the show, you'll know what I mean. He's a very entertaining guy. I've had the pleasure of working with Paul for many, many years. And if we go back many, many years, he was a producer of a show called the 570 Afternoon News with Glenn Pelletier. He was my producer. It is my pleasure to be working with the one and only, the legendary Paul Harriet. Great to have you with us.
Quite a coup for business to business.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy. You'll get to love him, as everybody does. And Liz Russell and Catherine Drake are video producing the show. Liz is our regular afternoon producer, but she's also learning the videography, the web streaming segment of it. We're being web streamed, by the way, at 570news.com. Go to our website. You can see what Greg looks like. And and you won't be able to do that of Ian McLean today because he's in New York City, and he joins us now. Ian McLean, by the way, president of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce and co-host of the show, along with Greg DeRozier, president and CEO of the Cambridge Chamber. And Ian, are you there?
I am so.
Okay. Why are you in New York? Can you explain that, please?
A friend of mine's daughter was the lead stylist for a charity fashion show for AIDS research during Fashion Week here in New York. One of a chamber member, Julianne Costigan, and so we were at this wonderful event last night. It was 26 reality TV stars, from everything from The Bachelorette to Housewives of New York, that were giving of their time to raise money for AIDS, and this was Julianne's big break,
how is service at the Waldorf Astoria?
It's not at the Waldorf. We're actually in the meatpacking district at the Ganford Hotel.
You're in the meatpacking district.
Ian just sent me a pic actually out of his room window, and hardly any snow there. Ian.
By the way, pic is the street term for photograph. Sorry, go ahead.
It took me about 36 hours to get here because a lot of the flights were canceled. But New York City, actually Manhattan and Lower Manhattan, didn't get nearly as much as they did north of the city and in the boroughs. So
looks like a beautiful day there.
It's gorgeous.
All right, we have a busy show, Greg. We're covering a lot of ground today.
Yes, we are, and Ian will appreciate this too. We all appreciate this. You probably too. The communication tools that we use every single day. We've got email, we've got our mobile devices, we've got our voicemail, we've got our telephone, we've got social media and all of that stuff. And, our Allstream segment coming up is kind of interesting because it talks about the unified communications tools that Allstream offers. So
all right, we're going to get to that in just a moment. Allstream, check them out on the web. It's allstream.com. They're our main sponsor, and they do such great work in IT for various companies. We're going to talk about the sudden decision by Finance Minister Dwight Duncan to pack it in, Justin Trudeau's visit to the region.
Well, and I guess Chris Bentley's decision
Chris Bentley as well.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Ian?
Well, I think it's not surprising to me, actually. I don't think it should be a surprise that Duncan was going to leave. I think he made that decision that once the new leader, whoever it was elected, that by the party that he would leave. I think what this signals is it really calls into question how stable the minority government can be, because
two senior ministers are gone.
Two senior ministers. Now there's going to be new people with a new premier, but you have to look at their seats. Dwight Duncan's riding's at risk now, and according to polls in Windsor, that the NDP are likely to pick up. So, you have to look at the politics of what a new premier means, and she's going to lose some members, and it makes the likelihood of an election go up, in my estimation.
All right. Also coming up in the show, we're going to talk about Greg's visit a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas, where you attended the ACCE Major Cities Council meetings. Economic Development by Chambers. You discussed a lot of things down there.
Oh, yeah.
Your partner in crime from Topeka, Topeka, Kansas.
Who was on our last live.
Right, and we're going to talk about the upcoming Centralia conference, is it?
It's more of a Waterloo Region version of that, right, that Ian and I are
the Manufacturing Innovation Network Summit. We're taking that Centralia model and going to match make as a pilot this year at that summit, which is I think May 1st, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Greg, is try and get 40 or 50 manufacturers to sort of get to know each other and see if there's some synergies, much like using that Centralia model.
All right, and we're going to get to a lot more as the show continues. Right now, we want to welcome our first guest from Allstream, and it's Dax Nair. He is he's director of marketing for information services.
Interesting
is that
guy,
right?
actually. Yeah, it was a good interview. Actually, I really enjoyed it.
All right, this is Greg in conversation with Dax Nair.
Well, Dax, it's wonderful to have you here with us today on Business to Business, powered by Allstream, of course. And, you've got something kind of unique, unified communications and collaboration. Maybe tell me a little bit about what that is.
Thank you for having me, first of all. Well, unified communications really is a technology that enables businesses to seamlessly bring communications across organizations, from anywhere, anytime, on any device or media, meaning wired, wireless, type of network. Expectations of customers are shifting, workplaces are shifting, so definitely this change has to be accommodated, and the technology really helps speed of communications in a device-independent fashion. That's really what unified communication does.
So you're really talking about collaborating all of the different communication devices that we use on a daily basis and unifying them into one kind of seamless system.
Yes, that is indeed right. So there are many ways this can be done. Now, collaboration may not be an obvious word to users. So on top of basic telephony and voicemail kind of use that we every day have, we can add on things like web conferencing, we can add things like video conferencing, we can add instant messaging and things like that to that environment, and make sure that whatever device you're on, you're able to connect to the company's network and receive calls or messages as and when you want them to be. It's your choice. It's user controlled, and you have the ability to take those calls in a unified manner, in a device-independent fashion.
So then, based on the infrastructure, what are some of the challenges that businesses are facing today with that current infrastructure they have?
Clearly, some of the obvious ones are, there are so many different types of systems out there, what we would call legacy. So from a company's perspective, forklifting some of those things becomes a big challenge. It's a lot of cost involved. Now, there are also employees these days are increasingly mobile, and they are different locations. Some of them are teleworkers. So the main challenge the companies face is how do you seamlessly bring these users together so that they have a sort of a cohesive approach to everything that they need to access to deliver their job in a productive manner. So that's one of the key ones. Now the other ones are like reaching out to customers or vendors, partners, etc. Those communications also have to be sort of do you give out 10 numbers to different people, or do you give them one number so that you can, whatever number they call, they can seamlessly reach you wherever you are, again back on any other device that you have. So those are some of the challenges that the companies are trying to resolve. So it comes down to money primarily, and then also the level of complexity in their work environment in terms of how dispersed is the organization, and is there a requirement to bring in, let's say, skilled resources that may be not in one location together for a project, so that you leverage skill sets that are perhaps across the country using these technologies.
You are listening to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream, and we are delighted to be in conversation with Dax Nair. He is the Director of Marketing for Unified Communications at Allstream. We're talking about the theme of collaboration, and Greg, take it away.
Well, we're collaborating all the time, Glenn, of course, but what are the business benefits then, Dax, of adopting Allstream's Unified Communications solution?
Well, there are many. I'll just touch upon a few. So when you specifically to Allstream, as you probably know, we are a national provider of network services, which is the underpinning technology requirement or the network requirement to deliver a unified communication solutions across various branches of an organization. So Allstream has the ability to really work with customers to identify solutions that specifically address customers' business challenges. Now, an example would be you have employees on the road way more than some of the other organizations that you normally see. So how do you make sure that they are able to connect? So we can work with the customer to make sure that we look at their problem and then provide a solution to that. We are also able to accommodate customers' requirements for that perhaps they have capital to spend or they don't have capital to spend. So we can come up with financial creative models that may work for the customer. And of course, at the end of the day, the unified communications benefits some of the benefits that we mentioned earlier are definitely available. Things like improving productivity, the cohesive approach to the communications across an organization, and then quicker response times. If you are on the road trying to strike a deal, you need to reach the decision maker in real time, and you are not hampered by the fact that you need to leave a message and then wait for an answer. Those things go away when you deploy a solution, a unified communication solution. Especially since we are the end-to-end network provider, we have seamless control, and we can make that a secure and managed environment for you.
Dax, I want to thank you very much for your time today. Keep up the great work at Allstream. We're delighted to have you on board as our primary sponsor. So have a great rest of your weekend, Dax.
Thank you. I need it. If you look out the window today, you would know what I'm talking about.
Oh, no kidding. Dax Nair has been our guest. He is the Director of Marketing for Unified Communications at Allstream.
Yes.
We're going to come back with more. Lots to get to Greg, as Business to Business, powered by Allstream, continues on 570 News.
Business by Allstream. Not just what you know, it's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News. Powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant. Allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream. Our hosts, one of them in New York right now, and last week one of them was in Vegas. The guy that was in Vegas is now in studio. The guy that was in studio last week is now in New York. The bottom line is, if you want to travel, the bottom line is, if you want to travel and see the world, become president of your Chamber of Commerce.
It's also in the contract that we don't have to be in the same studio doing this program together.
That's right.
Greg?
It's probably safer if we're not.
Ian McLean is in New York and is hosting from there. And as always, Greg DeRocher hosting, but this time he's in studio. Greg DeRocher is the president of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce. Ian McLean, president of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber. We had a couple of resignations last week. One of them, like you said earlier on the show, Ian, we knew was coming. Finance Minister Duncan resigning his seat and says he will not contest the next election, setting up a by-election. And then Friday, the Energy Minister, Chris Bentley, decided to pack it in.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Ian, I've been giving this some thought. I think neither one of them were a real true surprise. I think we knew that neither one of them were going to run again. However, is there something here with the fact that they're actually going out before a potential next election?
Well, I think Duncan, not so much. I mean, everyone assumed, I think, Pupatello is the third time in a row that the Liberals have elected someone who wasn't the front runner. So, but the conventional wisdom, she would win, and that he was supporting her and wanted to get out. He's done that job for a long time. And it's been a very poorly kept secret that he's lined up. He's ready to go off to do other things. I think he's got a senior position on Bay Street. All lined up. So that's not a surprise he's going, because he was going to resign so Pupatello could win that riding, or at least run in that riding. I think Bentley is, he was clearly gearing up for the leadership himself. Unfortunately, found himself in the energy portfolio, and then ended up with the gas plants and all the fallout from energy and health have been a wasteland for the ministers that have been there for a long time. So So I just think he knew his time was up. If he wasn't going to be leader, it was after he's probably been there 9 years now. It was time to move on. So, I don't think either of them are surprised, but I think you may see a few more of people saying they don't particularly want to be there for the long term if they're not going to run the next election. And I think that may mean that the election comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Interesting to note, Bentley, in his statement on Friday, did not mention, he issued a 2-page statement, did not mention the gas plant issue at all, did not mention the fact that the Tories were threatening to lay contempt charges. Actually,
that's called burying the lead.
They did, yeah. Yeah, very effective.
We actually had Chris Bentley come to a breakfast here about a month ago or so, and, he was quite open to questions from the audience, which I was a little bit surprised about the gas plant debacle, as most of us would probably look at it. He was quite clear and felt that the decision was right to cancel them.
And one has to give Ms. Wynne credit. Bentley made his announcement on Friday, and the day before, Ms. Wynne asked the Auditor General to expand his audit of the cost of canceling the Mississauga gas plant.
Yeah,
maybe she's got no other choice.
No,
she's got to separate herself a little bit.
Well, I would, otherwise they're going to be facing another contempt motion, I'm sure, and at some point the opposition's going to have the right to have a look at what's there, and there are some clouds around that issue.
I think the other thing is, whenever you have a new leader, especially someone that's been in caucus for she's been around this government for 9 years, you got to show some put some new paint on the walls, right? So you're going to bring in some new fresh blood into cabinet, which means some of the people that are there are just not going to get a phone call today inviting them to serve in cabinet. And I think what that will mean is that some of those people will say, it's very difficult to go from being a cabinet minister to a backbencher, and I suspect that some of those will do. Now, I think that when you go through what it means for business is, yet another or more instability around budget time, around deficits that need to be addressed, fundamental issues around what investments you do make while you're battling the deficit. So, I think it really is.
That's a good point. There's been very little actually done to address the deficit from even last spring.
Yeah.
Things have to change. We can't carry on with a $13-14 billion annual operating deficit in the province of Ontario.
Let me just clarify too, unless we cast Mr. Bentley in an unfair light, he was actually not in charge of the Ministry of Energy when those power plants, the Mississauga and the Oakville, were scrapped. That was actually Mr. Dogood, who has now moved on to the Economic Development and Trade Department.
But even before that, this dates back to, and this is the problem with a 9-year-old government, it actually dates back to Smitherman. So Smitherman is the one that came up with the Green Energy Act and set in motion a lot of these things.
Yep.
And Dogood and Bentley have sort of ended up wearing some of that. And in health, the same thing. Smitherman was sort of a part of that, and then there was another minister. Then Kaplan's the one that sort of has worn that. So, these things are, when you've been there 9 years, it's very difficult to not. You're forever defending every decision you've made, right? And that's why a leader is more often than not, a change in leader doesn't change people's perception of that same government.
All right, let's change gears a little bit now. We mentioned that the last time we spoke, Greg was in Vegas, where he was attending the American Chamber of Commerce Executives meeting in Las Vegas, and you were joined on the show at that time by the Chamber President for Topeka, Kansas, and you gleaned a lot of information from that particular. Do you want to review what you were doing down there?
Yeah, I think going forward, it was an extremely beneficial time to go down there and meet with 16 or 17 other chamber executives in about the same geographic setting as we have here in the Waterloo region. I think the partnerships going forward and some of the strategic alliances we can develop are going to be huge. But what's very interesting was, out of the I believe there was 16 excluding myself sitting around the table, there were probably 14 of those chambers who actually performed the function of economic development in their municipalities. The amount of funding that they got to do that, or where the funding came from, was a little bit different in certain jurisdictions. But what was really interesting was the the benefit that those communities have had in comparison to other communities in the U.S. who don't have chambers of commerce running the economic development. It just really seemed to open the door to more, almost that inherent sales job that a chamber can do that maybe a municipality has a little difficulty doing.
Well, and I guess that sort of raises the question. We have in the region of Waterloo, and John Young at Canada's Technology Triangle does a great job, but they're really focused, and rightfully so, on foreign direct investment, which is going out into the world and bringing people to our doorstep, whether it's manufacturers, technology companies, whoever, people that have investments to bring to the region to bring investment and jobs. But once they're there, I guess that's something that you and I have been talking about, is saying, what role do we play in terms of helping them get through the bureaucracy or the challenges of having a two-tier municipality, having the region of Waterloo and whatever municipality like the city of Waterloo or city of Kitchener. So, how do they approach that? Do they have any of the same issues around, two-tier municipalities like a county and then a city? How do they address those types of things?
Well, they actually do. What's really interesting is the Greater Topeka Chamber of Commerce actually operates economic development for a variety of counties and jurisdictions external to their municipality, where they're independent operating. They have their Monday night council meetings like Topeka has. They have, in some cases, their own chambers of commerce that operate distinct and separate as well, but probably on a little smaller scale. But I think in every jurisdiction that did economic development, that was the case, where in actual fact, while the chamber led the charge for economic development and was really responsible for the delivery of that, they actually created a different entity within the chamber. So in Topeka, for example, it's called Go Topeka, which is their economic partnership, and they, it's quasi separated, and it's done purposely like that because there are some public funding that goes
Topeka.
into.
I wonder how many people couldn't find Pika. I wonder how many people couldn't find Pika on the map.
Topeka.
Oh,
Go
Topeka. What are you talking about? There's no Pika. There's no
Pika.
There's no Krang in baseball, and there's no Pika in Kansas.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, actually.
They probably did that on purpose.
Yeah, but it's so if you actually went to their site, gotopeka.com, you'll see the economic partnership that's there, and it really extends beyond the municipality of Topeka itself. But they, of course, arrange partnerships with other chambers that they may cross over from an economic development perspective. But the track record is absolutely amazing. Like something like 2,000 new jobs during the height of the recession that they brought into Topeka. Their unemployment rate has not gone above 7% during the recession in the United States, which is really a highlight. It's pretty much a highlight in American, certainly from American.
I think there's one of the things that we as chambers of commerce are focused on. And this isn't to be critical necessarily, but government is set up, they're rules-based, so they always say, here's the rules and here's the reasons why you can't do what you're trying to do. And I think business tries to be you want to invest or you want to create something, how do we say yes? Not no, here's the reasons why no is the answer. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's one of the functions we do play, and I think need to take an increasing role in playing around the region.
Well, I think what else was interesting is having economic development, the responsibility of basically a private sector organization, gave the opportunity for incentives that a lot of people, municipalities can't do. We're governed, in the province of Ontario, we're not allowed to bonus and to attract business, but there are opportunities that private sector operations can certainly do to help attract that. And
would you guys like to expand? You mentioned that this added role of the Topeka Chamber. Would you, as economic liaisons and advisors and attracting new business, would you like to expand your roles at your respective chambers? Do you see a greater role?
Nobody wants to be busier. We're busy like crazy now, but the fact of the matter is, what's good for the community, I think, is what Ian and I would both sit down and say, well, of course, we want to maybe not expand our roles, but maybe we want to see a different approach to to some sort of model for economic development that highlights this opportunity of being more into the private sector.
Yeah, and you know what? We don't. I mean, there's no need to have duplication. I mean, that's one of the issues, right? Is there's so many organizations and people trying to be involved in things. So CTT has a role to play. So really clarify what that is, and whatever the gaps are, I think is where some of the things that we should be doing as chambers.
All right, guys, we're going to come back with more. We're going to move on and talk about something that you guys are working on, Centralia, bringing that particular conference locally. It's held every year in. Is it always held in Winnipeg or?
That's the model. We're not bringing Centralia.
Well, the concept. You're doing your version of it. Yeah, you're going to bring your version of Centralia. We're going to talk about that. By the way, there is no such place as Pika. However, there is a town in New Zealand called Pika, a lightly populated seaside locality on the Kapiti coast of New Zealand's North Island. Same spelling. Thank you, Paul. It's not Pika, but rather Pika. Pika, New Zealand, but there's no Pika Canada.
I didn't know that you could use a computer, Glenn, so kudos for you. For
Paul,
listen, ever since McLean got his hands on the BB10 a week before everybody else, this guy's been lording it over everybody.
He's in tune. He's connected.
Absolutely.
I'm waiting for the QWERTY keyboard to come out before I get on the BB10.
It's coming soon.
Looking forward to. By the way, Greg's still got the torch or the.
Yeah, it's.
I'm still using my torch and I love it.
I have trouble with touching a screen. Can't do it.
I love this QWERTY keyboard, and I can't wait for the QWERTY, the Q10, the BB10 Q10, which is coming out, I believe, in April. All right, we're going to come back with more. This is Business to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News.
We'll be right back with more Business to Business, powered by Allstream. Call in with your questions at star 570, 570-2545, or 1-800-570-5715. It's not just what you know, it's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News. Powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant. Allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
And welcome back to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream. In conversation, as we always are, Sunday afternoons between noon and 1, with Greg DeRocher, President of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, and Ian McLean, President of the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce. Ian on the line from New York, where he is there combining business with pleasure. Greg in studio. And we want to get to an event that you guys have coming up on May the 1st. Is this a combined effort between the two chambers?
Yes, this is the Manufacturers Innovation Network annual MIN Summit. Geared around manufacturing and a lot of learning sessions for manufacturers, as well as generally have a keynote speaker. But Ian and I have come across it was something that we very much support. Both organizations support the business to business speed dating concept around bringing manufacturers together and seeing where they can develop some synergies. Now these are SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, as opposed to large enterprises, but that's the sector of manufacturing that is the most flexible and can adapt and can see opportunities for retooling or doing some things differently, or developing some partnerships and strategic alliances that are going to certainly advance them.
Yeah, no, this is the second annual. So Manufacturing Innovation Network is basically a website, a portal for manufacturers to connect with one another. Last year they held the first of a summit and had Finance Minister Jim Flaherty amongst others, and had a great day of sessions. Both our chambers were involved, but sort of not fully engaged. I think this year they've asked us to administratively run it and use our connections in the business community to reach out to even more manufacturers in the region. As we all know, it's still 20% of the local economy. So this idea, and I think it really did come from Greg coming back from Centralia and saying, hey, this is a great way, because you never know the connections that people can make amongst each other. And we thought we'd bring that to the local aspect. So we're going to pilot that this year, maybe have 40 or 50 businesses where we can give them 3 or 4 meetings during the day's sessions, where they can connect with some other manufacturers and suppliers that they might not know even exist in their own backyard. Mm-hmm. That can help them become more efficient and give them new opportunities.
I think the important part for anybody listening who might be interested in this is going into a session or a meeting. It's a very quick meeting. They're 30-minute meetings, one-on-one, sitting across a table and actually trying to figure out whether or not there are opportunities. And I think, a lot of people look at it and say, well, first of all, let's define the opportunity before we sit down and meet. Well, oftentimes bigger and better things can come out of not defining that opportunity, but sitting down and saying, what do you do? And and here's what we do, and is there any way where we can work together or create something together where we can build both our businesses? And I think that's the real success behind Centralia, is people going into that 30-minute meeting go in with their eyes wide open and looking for opportunity, as opposed to saying, how can I sell my widget to this person? It's not about that, because it might be about doing something else, not even related to the widget or the service that you actually do now.
Yeah, and I think this is a real the opportunity that we're presenting for those SMEs is, I think the registration for the whole day is about $75 or $100 per person. So it's a good value in and of itself. But the opportunity to connect, and I think through the MIN website or the Manufacturing Innovation Network, if you go online, or even just contact us at the chambers, you'll be able to get connected with this event, because I think you're absolutely right. It's the opportunity to sit down and not go in with a preconceived idea of how someone might be able to help you, because there's always that's what chambers do. This is an a more specific version of networking, where
absolutely.
You just get to know somebody and what they have to offer. It may not even be their business. Hey, I know someone that you might want to connect with. And that's the sort of value added that chambers always give in our mind. That's what our members ask for, and this is just one that's specific for manufacturers. And I think it's going to be a great event. Last year, I think, Greg, we had over 500 registrants, and I would expect that we would be 600 or 700, and that would cover everything from manufacturers themselves, their plant managers, but also the folks that work with them. So
service providers
like accountants, insurers, law firms, those sorts of people who work with manufacturers and suppliers on a regular basis.
Greg, just can you explain for those that aren't familiar? You're borrowing, and this event has been sort of inspired by the Centralia conference, which you attend each year.
Yep.
Just in a nutshell, what goes on at Centralia, and why is it of interest to business owners?
Well, I think what goes on there is you basically profile your own company, and your profile goes into basically into the pile with everybody else's profile. And what happens is we try and match up companies of similar size, similar scope, maybe similar interests as far as production are concerned, or a customer base is concerned, and then sit them down across from each other. We develop a schedule. There'll be 30-minute meetings, like Ian said, 3 or 4 opportunities like that. They'll sit down across from each other and discuss any opportunities that they can come up with and work together on. So what Ian and I need is businesses that are interested to connect with him or I.
Let's put the websites out. Is the best way for them to get in touch with you via your websites for this event?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Ian? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so it's CambridgeChamber.com, right?
Yep.
CambridgeChamber.com and GreaterKWChamber.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
GreaterKWChamber.com.
But they should be trying to connect with Ian and I.
What's that?
They should try and connect directly with Ian and I.
That's right, because we're doing this when the two of us are working on that portion of this event. But it is the Manufacturing Innovation Network Summit 2013, so you can find that on the web as well. It'll tell you, who the speakers are, and there's a more expansive website.
And they can reach you guys directly, but they can reach you through the website.
Yep.
Okay, so go to if you're interested, if you're a business owner, you want to attend this event. It's May 1st, right?
Yes, that's
and
correct.
Whereabouts is it?
Bingaman's.
May 1st at Bingaman's. If you go to the websites, but say that you want to talk to either Greg DeRocher or Ian McLean. Again, it's GreaterKW.com, and CambridgeChamber.com. This segment of 570 News, Business to Business, is brought to you by Save on Energy, offered by your local electric utilities. When we come back, we're going to talk about LeaderCast, what the event is, when, who's going to be speaking, and why it is a great event for small business, medium, and large business owners of any kind locally to attend. You're listening to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News.
Business to Business, powered by Allstream, a presentation of 570 News. Watch the live video webcast at 570news.com. We'll return with more Business to Business. what you know. It's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News. Powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant. Allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
And welcome back to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News. Great to have you with us. You can watch the web stream of the show at 570news.com. It is being handled, as always, by Catherine Drake, and our radio producer is Liz Russell. She's actually helping out Catherine with the web streaming. And so the radio production side of things has been handed to the capable hands of the one and only Paul James Harriott, who is also the producer of The Late Lunch with Pete Travers on 570 News. I've worked with Paul for many years, and it is great to have him back, working with him again. So you guys have an event coming up called LeaderCast. This is a great event. Tell us more about it.
It's an absolutely fantastic event. We had a room full of people at Binghamton last year, and Ian and I were there. I think, we're busy people, and oftentimes we get, distracted away from really great events because individuals need to see us about something or another, but we spent a ton of time at this event because it was truly inspiring and motivating. And this, it is so well done by these folks out of Atlanta, Georgia, that in spite of the fact that it's satellite driven, it's not live. You would think you were
let's
there.
Be clear now. This is an event.
There.
It's called LeaderCast, but
yes.
It's done locally. You attend locally, but it's transmitted from.
It's
simulcast live from Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah, and last year we had it was your second year, but our first year involved, Greg, and we had over 250 people in the room, and I think this year we'll double that.
Oh yeah.
We've got accreditation for professional development for HR professionals, lawyers, accounting firms. So there's lots of reasons just on a professional basis to go to it. But what it really is, it talks about leadership and inspirational stories on how to deal with challenges that we all face either personally or in business. So two of the ones that I'm aware of, and I know you've got a couple others that are of interest to you, Greg, but Jack Welch, I think, who is the former CEO of General Electric, will be one of the speakers, which I think should be fascinating. He's, for a lot of business people, is one of those people they look to. Then Coach Krzyzewski from Duke Blue Devils, who is probably the most successful U.S. NCAA college basketball coach in the history of the sport, who is going to talk about how he has built such an impressive program, both academically and from a sporting perspective. So I'm really looking forward to those. I think it's well worth. I think it's for $100 or $125. It's a full day of great speakers and great networking with other chamber professionals.
And of course the whole day is provided. Lunch is provided. Breaks are provided as well. John Maxwell's one of the presenters as well, and probably maybe one of the world's leading authors and best-selling authors on leadership, and he's on business relationships. Also, what's really interesting is I think probably from my perspective anyway, one of the keynotes is going to come from Condoleezza Rice, the very first female Secretary of State, first black woman to hold that position as well.
And now a member of Augusta National. So she's got to be not a bad golfer, but more importantly, you don't see her in this type of setting too often. There's not too often that she does keynote addresses. Yeah. What's great about this is the technology. If you can't go to her, she comes to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just, and even Ian will attest to it. Like last year, we were both very impressed with how well organized the program is.
Okay, got to wrap it up. We've got a little bit of time. When is it? And
May 10th.
May 10th. Okay.
Binghamton. You'll see the promotional stuff coming out on both our websites and through our email blasts in the coming week. So we're excited about that.
And you're aiming this at any business owner listening right now?
Absolutely any person. We're actually going to have high school students come too. Okay. We're going to be approaching
the high school. So it's not just about business, it's about self-growth and just knowledge.
It's awesome. You should come, Glenn.
Kind of remind. You know what? I might, because it sounds to me a lot like TEDx. The TED.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
only they're not live, and we've got some
Sorry, go ahead,
great
Ian.
speakers.
Well, just coming up, I wanted to give the alert. Our Business Excellence Awards, February 21st. We're expecting a sellout of 750 people at Binghamton's to celebrate the nominees and winners of 13 different categories. So, if you're looking to network with everyone from the business community, that's a great opportunity to do it. And you can go to our website to get tickets. And we're very pleased that all three hospital presidents from St. Mary's, Grand River, and Cambridge Memorial will be speaking together on February 28th to a point of view luncheon to talk about healthcare in our community and the importance of that as it relates to economic development. So it's going to be a great event.
And I'll be moderating that as I did the
Paul
last one.
Beeston's our big breakfast this week.
Yeah, tell us more about that.
Tuesday morning breakfast with Paul Beeston at the Cambridge Holiday Inn. There are still a few seats left. Okay. So if anybody wants to get one, they should contact our office first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, and the best way to do that is what's the phone number?
519-622-2221.
622.
That's not the number you give me, Greg.
622-2221. 622-2221 if you want to hear Mr. Beeston, the president of the Toronto Blue Jays, speak. And he's got a very, very varied background and a track record.
And Ian, please have a safe trip home.
Yeah, we're heading out to the airport right now, and we're looking forward to getting back home.
Ian, thank you for your time. As always, Greg, always a pleasure. You've been listening to Business to Business.
Okay.
Powered by Allstream on 570 News. GreaterKWChamber.com for information there. CambridgeChamber.com to contact them. Thanks to Liz Russell, Catherine Drake, and Paul Harriet for producing the show. News is next at 1 o'clock. You've been listening to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News.
Mike and Molly have a new home on City.